Welcome to CyberMAYnia, cyber talks with the brightest minds in cybersecurity. Discussing risks, AI, emerging threats, workforce challenges, and more. Brought to you by CyberRange Solutions. With your host, May Brooks.
Hello and welcome to another episode of CyberMAYnia. And it's a good thing we're recording this because Ben and I already started a full discussion about education and cyber and where it's going. But before we dive right into the topic, let's start with a warm welcome to Ben Malisow? Now I'm not
Malisow,
sure.
yeah, very good. Very
Malisow,
well done.
I am.
Yeah, outstanding. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
wasn't sure that I was pronouncing it right. It's always a challenge.
I've heard terrible things, and no, that's the least of my worries. Thank you for
Well,
having
that's why I
me.
shortened my name. Yeah. Thank you for joining me. Amazing. Yeah, so I want to start, as always, all these episodes start the same way with you telling us a little bit about your journey, what actually motivated you to enter this crazy field called cybersecurity.
That's a great question. I've always kind of been a nerd. I grew up in a time where the first real PCs were coming out. I had an Apple IIe when I was a kid with an external modem and a green screen, and I went online to go to BBS's. I mean, that's online. We connected through the telephone lines, and I was kind of always drawn to tech. I'm not a real technologist myself, and I think that's something we can talk about later as well. But my other affinity and my other predilection and predisposition is teaching. There's a lot of folks, and you know this very well because we are of like mind, I think. And there's a lot of people who get very nervous about standing in front of a crowd and talking. I've known people in the military who'd gladly go into the front lines and face enemy fire. But if you ask them to stand up and just, wish someone happy birthday at a luncheon, they shake and quake. And, but this is something I've never been afraid of. And so my two kind of quasi passions eventually just sort of merged into creating this career field for me. And it took me a while. I had a winding path. There was no college program for cybersecurity when I was growing up. There was no security was seen as something that maybe you pay for after the snack bar has been filled up. This is something very low priority. But it has segued into a career and a profession and something I enjoy and my business. So that's kind of where I ended up. You don't want the blow by blow of all the places I've gone before then, right?
Well, we can, but no, we can go on your LinkedIn page and see that. Yeah, and I can tell you, by the way, that I'm not like you. I used to hate public speaking. Hate it. I would
Really?
refuse it. Yes, I hated doing it. I didn't want to do it. I had no problem standing up on stage and playing the piano or singing in front of a crowd, no worries. But talking, and even worse, talking my words, like not a script. I had no problem going on
Extemporaneously,
stage and
yeah.
acting, but going on stage and talking,
But
that sounded like
you're one of the icons of our industry. You're one of the leaders of our field. How did you get over that?
I didn't really have a choice. You mentioned the military. When I was in officer training, we had to do public speaking, and I was absolutely terrified. Luckily for me, I was then dating, and now he's my husband for over 20 years. I was dating Ita, and Ita is a phenomenal instructor. He was born to teach. He doesn't teach. He stopped teaching when he left the army, but he's a phenomenal teacher and public speaker. And I just called him and told him, they want me to talk, and I don't know how. And basically, he walked me through it very slowly, and that was the first time. And years later, someone just challenged me. How about after taking the CSSP? How about you teach the CSSP? No. Well, you're starting next week, so you better do it. So
Well,
basically,
we're very glad both to your husband and to the person who challenged you and voluntold you to go and start teaching because you've done great for our community and our industry.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have been really enjoying it, and I think that training and teaching is also a passion. You can't just, it's not just a job, and we had that discussion. But let's go back to what you just mentioned about education and building that pathway, because like you, I didn't have a clear pathway. My BA is actually in biology. My
In
master's
what?
is in business biology.
Oh, biology. Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
At least
I
it's a
wanted to be.
science.
It is a science, but I wanted I wanted to be a doctor. So I said, okay, let's start with a biology degree and go from there. And then I fell in love with cybersecurity, and the rest is history. And that really leads to the question of the current challenges of cybersecurity education. How do we build that? How do we mature our industry into clear career path? And I know you've been involved in many of these challenges, discussions. What's your view?
I'm kind of a curmudgeon. I really don't agree with most of our industry and our approach. And part of it is my personality, and part of it is a way to challenge. I think it's very important that we have a multitude of ideas and that we all don't march in lockstep in the same direction. But I really don't think degrees are the way to go. I think we harm young people, and I think we harm our industry by trying to teach security in a collegiate setting. That is not the place for it. Now, I'm biased, and I think you may be too. I believe in certification. I think there is a very good place in the industry for certifying bodies that are independent and within the industry itself, and run by the administrators and experts from within the security field. But I think if you give too much structure and you try to make it like an English degree or a math degree, you're missing out, because we are not theoretical. We are very much practical. We are much more like craftspeople. We're more like carpenters or plumbers or something along those lines, because what we do actually takes part in the operational realm. So I think when we get into the theoretical and the principle and the philosophical, maybe one semester would be useful. The difference between hardware, software, and firmware, that'd be great, just so the kids have Comp Sci 101. But the minute you get into a 4-year degree, or worse, the 6-year master's, the 8-year doctorate, when they come out of school, they might know everything about this IP range and the history of Biba and Bella Padula. But what they don't know is the joy of beating your head against the wall because you can't make the print server work. Right? They've never gone through that experience, and they've never actually serviced a network community. They've never run an organization. They've never managed a team. They've never responded to an incident. So
Yep.
I really don't believe that education is the way to go. I would like to see a structure. I appreciate what ISC Squared is trying to do with their CC cert. I did work on their training course on that, so full disclosure there. I'd like to see something even more rudimentary and even more entry level to really bring people from high school or even maybe late middle school into our realm, and better prepare them for going directly into the workforce. And then maybe a series of internships and maybe a series of graduated certification programs, so that we all have a uniform way of agreeing. Yes, May knows what she's talking about. Yes, Ben knows how to do this stuff, without sitting down and going and sitting in a classroom for 4 years, which I don't think has the efficacy we think it does.
I tend to agree with you. I can tell you, by the way, when I took the CISSP, for me, it was sort of the pivot point of my career. And if I'm being very honest, I didn't feel that I learned too many new things when I was learning for the CISSP. Maybe Biba and Bella Padula, because I never took those courses in university. So yeah, that was kind of new. I don't know how useful, but it was new. Yeah, yeah. But for me, it was someone external just said, May knows her stuff. She knows cybersecurity. She's actually a professional, because I didn't have those credentials. I came, as I said, with a biology background and an MBA and no official technical background. I mean, I did take a few courses down the line, but still. So the problem, I think, is the industry from two angles. One is the actual employers getting your foot in the door. You have to send your resume, and HR is looking for very specific things, and they're looking for that college degree, whether we like it or not. And the second, once people go into the higher positions, even the board is looking for those credentials.
And
So,
and you're absolutely right. They're trying to fit us into the same form that they filled everybody else into, and we just don't fit there. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's because nerds are a special kind of creative technical blend, which is more like being a musician, I think, than being like a worker bee. And HR really screwed it up because they're asking for CISSP for an entry-level job that pays $30,000 a year. And that's not fair
yeah.
to anybody involved, including the hiring managers. They're going to get the wrong applications that way. So
Yeah.
you're absolutely correct. Now, I think there are some efforts within industry to correct that. The move into cloud has really adjusted that greatly because the cloud providers are offering their own certificates for their own programs, and they're offering their own instruction and very low cost for the entry level starting points. AWS, Azure, Google, Rackspace, they all have these either free or very cheap courses. And then I think Azure was giving certificates for $25. So if you can
Mhm.
get certified for, the cost of a lunch, great. We need you in our industry. And that's a good development. There's another uh, uh, interesting kind of corollary to that. Um, on my podcast, I had an entity called now I'm now Perscolis is the name. I was going to forget the name. Perscolis is the name of the organization. And what they do is fascinating. They focus on students who otherwise may not be going to college or other forms of higher learning. They try to focus on minority and disadvantaged students of all ages, not just high school students entering the workforce, but people who've already been in the workforce for a while. And they give them free classes on things like CompTIA, Sec Plus, CYSA, all those kinds of certs. And I asked the representative I had on my show, I said, how in the world do you pay? First of all, just the price of the certification is expensive. Now you also have top flight instructors teaching this to a wide range of students. How can you afford to pay these instructors? How do you do what you do? He said, we're subsidized by corporations who get first pick of hiring our graduates.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I love that. I
That's the way
absolutely
it's
love that.
supposed to work.
That's a
That makes so
win-win.
much sense, right?
It does, because when a hiring manager wants to find someone, it's not enough. Like, see, it's not enough that they have the credential, that they have the CC or the Security Plus or whatever. They want to know that they actually know their stuff, because unfortunately, there are people that are very good at taking exams, and it doesn't necessarily mean they understand the topic. So, yeah. So I think that is a wonderful way for the industry to regulate itself, sort of.
It's somewhat, at least, hopefully. Better than college, again. And it's funny that you just said that. When I said earlier when I was doing my little intro thing, I'm not really a technical person. You just described me. I can take any multiple choice test and do well. It could be on a subject I've never done before, the migratory birds and their mating habits or something. So I'm not the most expert in networking. The OSI 7-layer model just seems baffling to me. But I think that that's useful in terms of the education. I can convey the stuff that I'm going to tell them is important when they go to take their test. And I think it can help alleviate some of the stress and anxiety that a lot of test takers have. I know some excellent IT personnel who have as much nervousness about sitting down and taking a multiple choice test as you did about standing up and doing public speaking. So hopefully we can blend those different skills together. It does seem kind of unfair that our certifications are based on multiple choice tests, but there's no other objective metric for learning that is scalable. We just
Yeah.
we can't do oral boards. We can't do a practical. It wouldn't work, and it would be rife with corruption and all sorts of other problems as well. So as bad as it is, multiple choice is where we're at.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have other options right now. And I think that I completely agree with you with that sort of gap between what the industry needs and what the educational market thinks we need. And we just had that discussion before we started recording when you told me maybe we should record that, about me getting a doctorate. And I love researching, I love reading, I love learning, I love creating content, I love publishing. So I'm sort of the ideal doctorate candidate. And to this day, I never actually bothered to do a doctorate because of time and energy, and I didn't want to do it that structured. But at some point, I realized that if I don't get my doctorate, and it could be a PhD, it could be a DBA, it doesn't matter which one, down the line, I will need it because I've been an adjacent professor in different colleges, and that always came up with the Ministry of Education in Israel, with the higher education authority. They always said,
You
"How
couldn't
can
get
you be a
tenure without
program
the
leader?"
doctoral.
I don't care about the tenure. I care about teaching. They actually didn't want myself and another professional who's incredible with 40 years of experience, and they didn't want us to be the program leaders because we didn't have a doctorate. We both have a master's degree, but they didn't want us
But
because we didn't have a doctorate.
being adjunct is better anyway.
Oh yeah.
Part-time is great. You don't have to go to those stupid meetings. You don't it's so much better. Part-time is great. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
showing my
Yeah.
biases here.
No. I agree with you. But you know what? But even as an adjacent professor, they wanted us to have a doctorate. And I can tell that when I left the college, I relocated. The guy they brought to bring in to replace us, he is a PhD. Now he's a
Of
great professional. No worries about that. But they wanted a PhD. They
of
wanted a
course they
doctorate.
do, because they all have PhDs and they're eating their own dog food. You know, that they hate being shown up by someone who doesn't have a degree because it makes their whole product look ridiculous, you know? Um, Bill Gates famously dropped out of Harvard. Steve Jobs dropped out of Stanford.
Hmm.
Zuckerman dropped out of, was that? That was
Zuckerberg.
also Harvard too, I think.
I
Yeah.
think Harvard.
I
Yeah.
think Harvard. Yeah. I mean, you know, and and yes, those are by far the outliers, and that is an exceptional case, and that's not the one that proves the rule. But it kind of tends toward the fact that, you know, college is great for certain things, but for other things, it's not optimum, and not everybody needs a master's or a PhD. It's just it. Sorry, I'm showing my anti-collegiate bias again.
Which is fine. But yeah, I think that we're at a point that we need to evolve, but the industry is evolving faster than universities, than the educational market. I think it is a challenge. And again, HR. I've seen a lot of people trying to get their foot in the door and being rejected because they didn't have those official certifications or degrees or whatever. And I think it's sad because at the end of the day, as you said, we need a different approach. And I want to talk to you a little bit about your approach for teaching. And you mentioned that you do certification training. You have a very different approach to many. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you. I started my own firm after being an ISC squared instructor for several years. I was one of their senior instructors. Um, I said, you know what? Sitting 40 hours in a row and trying to absorb just this stack of knowledge that includes Biba and Bella Padula doesn't do anybody any good. There's got to be a better way to deliver this. And there's been plenty of studies, you know, I can find the references and citations to reinforce this idea. But if you learn in smaller chunks, you're more engaged with the material and it's stickier in your head. Because if you sit through 40 hours of class, by Thursday afternoon, you're ready to shoot the teacher and everybody else in the room, including yourself, right? And your teacher feels the same way. So, you know, it's a grueling marathon and nobody wants to participate in it. So instead, what I did when I decided to spin off and make my own content is I said, let's boil this down to the very basic stuff. What is it that somebody needs to pass the exam, with the assumption I go on the basis of they wouldn't be in my class if they didn't know all the basics already. I'm not going to teach you what hardware is, what software is, what firmware. I'm imagining you came in with your IT credentials behind you. Now I'm going to teach you what's going to be on the exam. and I go through the exam outline for every course, and it's whether it's ISACA or ISC squared, and I break down each topic and I say, here are the things they're going to ask you questions on. Because there's a narrow range of things that could conceivably make good multiple choice questions. Now, there's a lot of folks in our field who don't like this approach because they say it's teaching the test. You're not really assessing whether somebody has the capability to do these things or the knowledge to be an expert in our industry. And my answer to that is, look, they wouldn't be in the chair if they didn't have at least the modicum of the background. They're still going to have to go and get the endorsement. They're going to have to demonstrate the 5 years of experience. So all I'm doing is I'm removing the fear of the unknown from them. I'm preparing them for what they have to know. They still have to go and study it and learn it. They have to know those things. They're not just going to, I'm not giving them the questions and the answers. I'm giving them focus and drive. And I'm removing that doubt from their mind of, oh my goodness, are they going to ask me what Biba's first name was? And the answer is no, they're not going to do. I don't know what it is. And, I got my CISSP. So that's how I've approached it. I've made it as concise as possible. And when I deliver it, I don't deliver it in 40-hour classes for the most part. Sometimes I will, if someone wants me to do a live class on location somewhere, I'll go and teach a private class that way. But usually what I do is I break it up into 3-hour chunks and I spread it out 4 or 5 nights a week for a couple of weeks. And this allows professionals, one, to schedule their time better. They don't have to take an entire week off of work to go and sit in my class. And two, it allows them to absorb things in those smaller elements, think about them overnight and during the next day, and then ask me questions about the next day as we're going further in the lesson. And I like the approach, one, because it's easier for me to teach that way, and two, because I get a lot of really good feedback from the professionals who are in my classes and have not had the opportunity to take courses in this manner before.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can tell you that I've been teaching. I did the 40-hour marathon, I think once or twice. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. It's terrible for the teacher as well. But I usually taught twice a week, about 4 or 5 hours. At some point, I noticed that if a student misses even one session because of life, because it is what it is, we're all professionals, and sometimes there's an incident and whatever, it's very hard to get back on track. And what happens is students, either they drop out or they continue coming, but they never take the exam, or they take it in a very further down the line. And I don't want that. I always wanted to have all my students take and pass the exam as quickly as possible. So I found that the magic number is once a week, 5 hours. It's grueling. It's 5 hours. It's a lot, but it gives them enough time to prepare for the session and take the
block
session
that time
and
out and make that time
exactly.
sacrosanct. That's a great approach. That I'm not going to
Yeah,
knock that approach. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, it does take me longer to finish a cohort, but I don't mind, because the statistic shows that a lot of my students do take and pass the exam on their first try. And at the end of the day, that's what I want. I want them to succeed. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. I can tell you, even though we're both instructors, we don't really want to see you fail. We want to see you guys succeed. At least
Oh, that's
the
so
majority of
true. I got an
instructors.
email from a woman today who had taken the exam twice before. And I do a thing with my stuff. If you fail the test once, I give you the course for 50% off. If you fail it twice, I give you the course for free. Just because I want to help people pass, and you need more help than people who are coming to me for the first time. She came to me after she'd failed. She'd taken other courses. She'd taken the official course. I let her take my course. She really enjoyed it. She emailed me today and told me she failed the third time. And I felt terrible. I really was hoping that, I was going to give her the thing to push her over the top. But she was not discouraged. She just said, maybe she's coming at it the wrong way. She's going to go try the CISM in the interim. And I gave her my CSM course for free too. I like, please, I feel like a heel, take this, and she said, I'll come back to it in a while and we'll see where I'm at. And maybe it's something other than the material. And I agree. A lot of the time it's a language issue. It's an anxiety issue, or it's just not having that same skill that we were talking about, the test taking gene, So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the test taking gene, I think that for many people in our industry, maybe in the US it's a little bit different because a lot of people go down the path of college just because. In my part of the world, a lot of people, I think the majority of my colleagues don't have a BA. They
And
don't
they don't
have
need
a,
it.
they don't need it. But the thing is, if you flunked through high school and you never got a degree, you're not used to taking exams and you're scared of it. And I had a student, and to be honest, it was a personal challenge for me because I know his family, I know his father very well for many years, and he failed the exam twice. And he took the course and he failed it twice, and he said, never again. And I told him, you're my personal project. I don't want you to pay, I want you to come. I want you to come and but you have to come to each and every lesson. You have to do the work. I'll mentor you. You'll pass. I won't pass. You will pass. 2 months down the line, he calls me up 2 p.m. after passing the exam. And then he asked me, are you home today? Yeah. A couple of hours later, he was at my house with a nice bouquet of flowers and a bottle of a very nice single malt because that's my
I was just
kryptonite.
going to say, Scotch is the
Yeah.
required for all of the students out there. I need to make
Yep.
this very clear. Single malt Scotch is the way to go.
Exactly. Exactly. So
I've got a colleague who goes with bourbon, but he's from Kentucky and he's an idiot. So yeah, it's Scotch. Scotch is the way to go.
I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, we'll have to re-educate him. Maybe we can do a cybersecurity course about single malts.
We did a podcast episode earlier this year. In Kentucky, they're putting tracking chips in the caps, the stem of the bottle, because some of these bottles are so expensive, like Pappy Van Winkle and things like that.
Yeah.
So they become such prized commodities, such valuable assets that each one is being tracked digitally with RFID.
That is cool.
Yeah,
I did
yeah,
not
I
know
really
that.
like that. Yeah.
That is very cool. Yeah, well, I think that we should go on the road, but not in Kentucky, in Scotland, and go to different distilleries and offer them cybersecurity training.
Yes, please. The Isle of Jura, I'd rather go towards the peatier stuff than the Highland stuff, if that's okay.
No, I prefer the Highland stuff, but I
Well,
can
we'll
go.
have to do
I
both
can go
then.
to Ireland. We can go to both. Yeah.
We should do both then.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way to
Exactly.
fix the problem. Yeah, yeah.
See, we're I think we're on
Like mind.
See, well, cybersecurity, it will make you drink more. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. Yeah, I think that's my new t-shirt. Yeah, so we talked about the podcast. So let's discuss your podcast. I think you're already at 200 episodes.
We're coming up on 200, and it's going to be a
Oh
special
my God.
episode. I'm lining up a special guest, and I'm hoping you'll come on the show. Not for the 200th episode, but that you'll come on the show at some point.
I would
and I can
love
return the
to.
favor here. It started as a COVID project for me and my girlfriend. My girlfriend wasn't sure which career she was going to go into. Her business, her whole industry kind of got shut down during the closures. And she saw how much fun I have doing the stuff I do. And she said, maybe I'll go take the A+ or the Net Plus, and I'll start to move into IT and InfoSec. And I said, great. I encouraged her highly. And she said, you keep teaching me all this stuff and we have these conversations. I think other people would get benefit out of them, and you teach anyway. So why don't we record them and broadcast them as podcasts? I said, great, let's do that. And she was really the mainstay of the show for, I think, the first 80 episodes or so. But then she did find a real job as COVID was winding down, and she has less time. She got promoted 3 times in her brand new industry. She's now the sales manager for a very large nationwide car dealership here in the U.S. And so she has no free time at all. But I tried to keep the show going. I found a couple of colleagues who were glad to jump in. Matthew Snoddy and Raphael Fiedler. So we kind of got an international flavor, and we talk a lot about current events in the InfoSec space. We often have guests on to talk about specific topics, and we just go with what we enjoy, and we babble for an hour and we have fun.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I actually had another podcast that started during COVID. It just started with me being bored. So every Thursday we recorded live. And that was great. It went on for about 100 episodes. And at some point I said, I want my Thursdays night backs. I mean,
It
Thursday
is a
night is not
commitment.
it is a commitment. When you do it live every single week, it is a commitment. It's much easier doing what we're doing now, just scheduling a block of time, recording and uploading. But it has a good vibe when it's live. I like doing live shows.
And you
So
could
fun.
probably take call-ins and streaming questions and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So that's why I love, by the way, the coffee tabletop with Rachel Arnold and Will McCallan. So they do live and it's super fun. For last time we recorded, it was very late for me on a Friday night. So they had coffee and I had wine. Told you
As well you
cybersecurity makes you
should.
drink.
Yes, exactly.
Cybersecurity makes you drink. Yeah, so it's
This
always
is
lots
actually
of fun
vodka. I
doing
didn't
these.
want to tell you.
Well, I don't. No, I still. For me,
You
it's
have a date.
10
Yeah,
a.m.
right.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so it's still early in the day. Although it's probably already 5 p.m. somewhere.
yeah.
As I said, cybersecurity. Great. So you're doing a lot of content creation. You have the podcast, you have the books, you have the training courses. How do you go about it today? Especially, I hear a lot of people talking about generative AI and why it will cure all creativity. I actually asked ChatGPT to write a LinkedIn post about why it will not kill creativity. It was so good that I didn't even change it. I just uploaded it as it was. Yeah, yeah.
You know, I see it as a force multiplier. I have an unnatural advantage over a lot of people in that I can write a sentence and convey information. That is an unnatural thing. Writing is not part of nature. Um, Communication is much better the way we're doing it right now. Speaking to each other, seeing each other. We convey a lot more with our nonverbal communication, just by our facial expressions and so forth, and the tonality of our voice and the sounds that we are making. There are ducks outside my house that can communicate with each other better than a lot of people can write a sentence. So I've taken advantage of it over my career. I've had no qualms about making money off of it, but I understand that it is not something that I should rely on for my job for forever. And something like AI or the large language models or the GPTs or whatever they are, if they can bridge the gap between people who have difficulty with a written form of communication and allow those people to convey their ideas in the same way that I can or another writer can, I'm all for it. I think it's great. Even if that means I lose out on my authorship, even if it means I lose out on making unique content, that's okay. I'm not a Luddite, and I don't think we should stop technology just to protect my job. I think that's the dumbest thing to do. Now, I also see it as a force multiplier because just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's a good idea and doesn't mean that it's going to translate well for somebody else. So I think that there will be a learning curve with these new tools, but there'll still be a place for people who have an expertise of conveying information or having information to convey, that these tools will magnify and help us with this distribution and reach. They're not going to destroy whole industries. Instead, they're going to assist many more people in being able to communicate.
I completely agree. I think it saves up a lot of time if you build the prompts correctly. I mean, it does take training and you have to feed it again and again and tell him, no, I didn't like this, you do it like that. But it can save up a lot of time. Usually when I create new, for example, even a new training or a new presentation, I will tell them this is the target audience, this is the title, these are the key takeaway, give me the layout. And it will save up that first half hour of opening a new PowerPoint and just staring at it. And I'm like, what am I
Mm-hmm.
going to say? So it saves up some time. It's not going to do it for me, but it will save me a lot of time and a lot of energy. So I think it's fantastic.
I'm with you
That's
there. I'm in complete agreement. And again, there'll be some growing pains. There'll be some
Yeah.
awkwardness as we transition from where we're at to where we're going to be, but that's true with any technology. And, you take the good with the bad.
Yeah, I think it's adapt or die. Will some industries be affected and no longer relevant? Yes. But I think that the majority of people will utilize AI and sharpen their skills and use AI and add value to that AI, whatever it will generate. And that will be the new content creators, the new graphical designers, etc., etc. I think it's not going to kill creativity. I think it's going to change creativity.
It just, I don't want, I'm never going to ask your age, May. I'm not going to do that. But I think we are of a cohort, sort of. And when I was
Yeah.
growing up, I remember video cameras were huge and expensive. And only certain people could have them because only certain people could afford them. Therefore, the people who could make content, the people who could make movies, people who could shoot television promos, the people who could convey their idea with video were limited to a very elite group with a certain income. Everybody today has a much better camera on their damn phone, and it allows everybody from the age 8 onward to make their own videos and convey their own ideas and be their own artiste. And that's more egalitarian. That's better. It's a better world because of it. Does it mean that 90% of it is crap and it's on TikTok and it's idiots doing dances? Yes. Yes, it does. But it also means that the 10% that isn't crap is more. That 10% is more than all the films, all the television made prior to the year 2000. Every year we're creating more content that has ever existed before in the past. And that is fantastic.
It is, and I want to point out it's not from 8 onwards, it's from 7 or even 6. And I can tell you that I was just in my youngest daughter's end of term showcase, and they showed us what they were working on. Their theme for the last couple of months was superheroes, and the kids had to produce with their parents a stop motion video. And I was like, how do we do that? Thankfully, my 7-year-old daughter told me, Mom,
She
what's the
figured it out.
problem? So she just brought me a page and said, now we have to build the storyline. And she showed me how they build a storyline. And then she took her iPad and then she told me, you have to create the scenes. And we created the stop motion video. And it was absolutely incredible to see a 7-year-old thinking about creating that storyline, building that structure, using the camera, using the technology. And I think that is such a creative way of teaching and conveying data instead of the old, boring way of just standing in front of
Writing
the
an
class. And
essay, write your introduction, write the body, write the conclusion. That's stupid. That is a horrible way. Nobody does that in real life. This is what we do in real life. We talk to each other. Video is so much better and it conveys so much more information in a faster amount of time. And it's not boring to sit and look at a video. People do it for entertainment. That's amazing and humbling that your child is, able to do these things. That's great. It's going to be a
incredible.
whole better world.
I think so. I think it will change the way we see education, and seeing that for a second grader, it was incredible. It really was. It was as an educator, I looked at it and I said, "Wow, I need to bring more hands-on experience to class." I really do. I really do, because it was so much fun. We were just sitting there and thinking, yeah. Yeah, so towards the end of this conversation, I always like to finish these episodes up with a short pop quiz, whatever jumps to
I do
mind,
the same
no
thing
right or
on
wrong.
my show.
Well, I didn't steal the idea. I used to do it.
No, it's great. It's great. I love it. I use the glossary from CompTIA's A+ and Sec+ because they're terrible. They're just terrible acronyms.
Really?
Well, yeah. What's your quiz though? I'm excited.
No, my
now.
quiz is a sort of a personal quiz with
Uh-oh.
different ideas and different topics. So let's start with the first one.
Are you going to
You
ask
said
me
that
for
you're
like
not
my DII or something?
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll see how social engineering really works. So you said that you're not a techie, but you are a techie. So if you were deserted on a desert island, what are the 3 tech gadgets that you would really need with you? You can also
That's an excellent
choose
question.
one.
And I'm going to lean more to my military experience than my IT experience.
Ooh.
I'd go with a plastic bag first of all. From a survival perspective, you can use it as a solar still. You can use it as protection from the elements. You can use it to carry water or other organic material if you need it. You can use it for composting. Plastic's the way to go. Insulation, definitely. Second and third, I want a knife. I'm a very basic kind of guy, and the knife is probably the one of the finest tools humanity has ever created. It is almost perfect in its simplicity. It's reusable. It is multi-purpose, and that's the way I'd like to go. And it doesn't have to be a fancy knife; just something really, durable.
No, a Swiss Army knife, a big one. That's the one I would take.
Yes. No, this is just what I have at my desk. I just like a something like a K-bar, like a simple, kind of blade. Yeah. And then the third thing, that's hard. Now you're looking for more technological, aren't you? I guess
not necessarily.
The easy answer would be a sat phone, so I could leave whenever I got bored of being on the island. But that seems a little too straight. That's a little too on the nose. I'm going to give away some really personal information. I'd bring my dog. I know that's not exactly a device, but I'm a big softy when it comes to the animals, and they provide so many good things in terms of detection, response to threats. They can be used to augment hunting and gathering. And at the end of the day, they're warm. So if it gets cold at night on the island, you can cuddle up next to your dog and stay alive and avoid hypothermia and frostbite.
And they're super cute.
There is that. Yes.
Yes. I'm a big German Shepherd and Milanese grower. So yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, outstanding. Very, very
I
good.
like big dogs. I like them as big as they can get. I mean, I always wanted a Great Dane. Never got around to that, but hopefully one day I will.
But the
Malinois,
the Malinois and the Shepherd, that takes a lot of attention. That's harder to raise than a kid, isn't it? I mean, you need to be disciplined. You need to be attentive. You can't be a lazy dog owner.
Yeah, but I was very fortunate to have very good dogs growing up. So I grew up with German Shepherds since I was 4 years old. So I love that breed. They are amazing. We have one. She's 14, and she's absolutely incredible. She's with my dad because we didn't want to take a 13-year-old dog and move her countries because that's just cruel.
Good for you.
That's just,
you are doing right by the animal.
Yeah, well, to be honest, she grew up in our yard. It's a shared yard between my father and myself. So she didn't really have much of a difference, and she still have the kids, my friends' kids, and my son and my brother's daughters. So she's still happy enough, and she has kids playing with her, and she likes to be cuddled. But it's very sad for us because we miss her terribly.
Of course,
hopefully,
of course.
Yeah,
I understand completely. How are her hips?
Surprisingly enough, very well for a geriatric 14-year-old German Shepherd. She's walking around. She's incredible. She's incredible. We're very fortunate with her.
Congratulations. That's great. That makes me very happy.
I love dogs. They're just the best. Another question. Let's go with another question. Okay, you talked a little bit about external certification and what it does. So let's talk about your personal go-to firewall to beat imposter syndrome and self-doubt.
We did a whole episode on this on the show a while back, and I don't think we got around to that point. And that's a really good point. That's a fantastic question. And I'm just, this is off the top of my head here. I haven't thought too much. This is going to sound so self-serving and so vain, but it's not that. It's what you were saying. First of all, everybody feels imposter syndrome. I've been doing this for 25 years, and my name's on the books and blah, blah, blah. I still feel like I don't know nothing. Every time I go into a class, I know that there's students in there that are going to know more than me. When I start to really get that way, I'll flip through one of my books. I'll go look at something that I wrote previously. And when I come across a passage, because I don't remember verbatim all the stuff I write. I don't think anybody can unless you have an eidetic memory or something. I'll come across a passage and I'll go, that's really good. Did I write that? That's whoever wrote that is smart. And I'll feel really good about myself once again. And I know it sounds kind of masturbatory, but that's not, it's not to stroke my ego. It's to salvage myself from that imposter syndrome. So yes, that's
I
exactly
love
the
that.
sort of thing that I do.
I absolutely love that. You have so many achievements. How do you celebrate your achievements?
Food and drink. Um, uh, usually me and
Going
my
back to my
girlfriend.
t-shirt.
Yeah. Me and my girlfriend will go out to a dinner, or we'll cook a very nice dinner, or order a very nice dinner. That's kind of our go-to. It seems kind of lazy and a shortcut, but that's how it goes.
No, as long as it's celebrating those moments, I think it's incredible. And last but not least, reflecting on our discussion today, what would you like our listeners to remember most about this conversation? What would you take out of this conversation?
Okay, so my MBA side says the fact that I have courses for sale, go buy them. But my real persona, me, just the person, I'd say take away the fact that the things that scare you, whether it's standing in front of an audience and talking extemporaneously, or sitting down and taking a multiple choice test that your job may hinge on, those things are not going to kill you. Even if you do horribly, even if you bomb, you can get up on stage at your local stand-up comedy place and do amateur hour, and people can boo you off the stage. You can fail that exam so hard and get none of the answers right. Neither one of those things are going to destroy who you are. All they're going to do is give you an opportunity to learn from that experience and go, okay, I can do this better next time. Don't let the fear hold you back. I'm going to go ahead, May, and I'm going to make a presumption again. You tell me if I'm wrong, but there have been plenty of times in my career, and I'm guessing it's the same for you, where you applied to do something you'd never done before. Not that you had no experience in the thing, but you'd just never done that thing that way. And you were ready to take a gamble on it, a gamble on yourself that you were going to be successful in doing it. And then it turned out to be fruitful and you enjoyed it. Whether or not you carried on doing it from then on, you at least recognize that you now have the capacity to do that thing. And that opens more doors in your own head for yourself. And I really want to recommend everybody doing that, whether that's a IT certification, whether that's applying for a job that you don't think you're good for. Get the confidence in yourself to just go ahead and stretch. The worst thing that anyone can ever do to you is say no. That's it. That's as bad as it gets. Go for it.
That is absolutely amazing. I mean, amazing. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. Really, because it's so true. What's the worst that can happen? You're not going to die. So they'll tell you no, or you'll suck at a new job. It happens.
You get fired, you quit, you go get another job. Yeah.
Amazing. Ben, thank you so much for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure, and I hope to see you all next time on CyberMAYnia.